Will Minecraft ever be popular again? So, this is a question a lot of people ask, and I can't say that I think it particularly matters whether or not the game is popular. However, it is still an interesting question that I wanted to share my thoughts on. So, obviously, Minecraft once upon a time has been popular, or it has been popular twice, really. So you have the OG era, which I would classify as being right around when the game first started to become popular. I would say it would be about 2011. Certainly on YouTube, that's the case. And then I would say it started to die off maybe 2014 to 2016 sort of era. Then I would say the game kind of just was... People still played it, but it wasn't particularly popular again until about the COVID era, about 2020 to about 2022. And it was massively popular. It's the most popular it has probably ever been, and possibly ever will be. And again, that's for a variety of reasons, the main one being that everyone was inside during COVID, and so one of the only things you could do as a means of entertainment was to watch Twitch streams or YouTube. Certainly for younger people, that was the case, and so a lot of people went to go play Minecraft or watch Minecraft, and that brought about a massive wave of popularity for the game. But obviously it brings a question now that we're in an era where it's no longer as popular, and we're kind of back into that lull period that we had after the OG era and the COVID era. So what is required to make the game more popular, or does it really matter? Like I say, I personally don't think it does, but what can be done to make the game more popular? And one of the first points to make, I think, is simply that the reason that it became so popular again in the COVID era and what it could teach us is that the only reason I would say a lot of people started to become interested in the game again during the COVID era is because people realized that the game wasn't the exact same as what it was in the OG era. In the OG era, the reason why a lot of people started to become disinterested is because the game is... It kind of just became a very similar sort of experience after a while. Sure, it was fun, and there was a lot of mods, and there was stuff to do, but, you know, you'd seen it all before, and it just got a bit boring after so long. And again, like, that's not something where it's a criticism on the game or anything like that. I just think not a lot really changed in that era. And you had a certain amount of mini-games, and there was just a certain amount of stuff on YouTube and for yourself to do. And it just got boring, really, is the point to make. I've made a video on survival games and why that's no longer popular. And I think it largely, again, is a perfect indicator of the OG era, in that it was very popular during the 2011 to 2014 era, but the reason it sort of died down is just because nothing really changed about it. And now it's reached the point where no one really cares, because it's been gone so long, and there's arguably better minigames now. Certainly I think that's the case anyway. So, in the COVID era, though, one of the things that made it so popular is that there was actually a lot of changes happening while the game wasn't particularly popular. And this meant that by the time that people came back for the COVID era, they realized there was a lot of new content, and there was a lot of new content creators, and a lot of new ideas that they just didn't have beforehand. So a good example of this, I would say, is that there was the Nether update, there was the update to a lot of biomes, and... in general, like, I think, I'm fairly sure, like, the updates to some of the end, like, you know, stuff like Elytras and stuff like that were added sometime between the OG era and the COVID era. I'm not 100% sure on exactly when that is, but I think the Nether update is one of the biggest parts of this. And then as well, the Caves and Cliffs update as well, when that came about, I think it really helped keep the game popular because it felt different, and it was really good for the longevity and kind of just... the game as a whole. I think those updates have really helped now to the point where, like, even though the game's no longer popular, or as popular as what it was, I still play the game far more regularly than I ever have. And I played the game during the OG era, and I didn't play it that much. I watched more of it than I did play it. And then I stopped playing it as much during the sort of lull period between the two OG eras and the COVID era. And then I came back sort of after the COVID era in many ways, and I've not stopped playing since, and I don't really know that I will stop playing, because I think there's so much to do now, and there's so much stuff that I enjoy about the game, that I just don't think I'll ever really quit. And that's kind of the main point, I think, is that I think for the game to be popular again, it kind of just needs a lot of new updates again, for people to suddenly, who maybe haven't played since the COVID era, come back and have the same level of nostalgia, because a lot of the people who actually made the game popular in the COVID era was initially people coming back from the OG era, who were kids during the OG era, I suppose, and grew up on the OG era, maybe watching content on there, and then they make content in the COVID era, and that inspired, again, another new generation of younger people who loved it and watched loads of it. And so, essentially what I'm saying is that I think towards the end of 2020s, I'm talking maybe 2029 or 2030 even, if Minecraft is still being developed, still getting regular updates, and people are still playing it just as much, which I think is a perfectly reasonable expectation to have, I think there could be another boom period for the game. Certainly not as big as the COVID era, or maybe even the OG era. Because the COVID era had the advantage again that everyone was inside. It was like the perfect environment for a video game to thrive, in that it had the nostalgia factor, but it also had a lot of fresh new content, and everyone was inside, meaning that you could either play it or you could watch it. There was really no reason not to be involved with Minecraft at that point. Whereas the OG era, I think, was just big because, again, it was before Minecraft. It was Minecraft's first real, I suppose, explosion in popularity. And it's because, it was a unique game, there's a lot of cool stuff. But again, eventually people got bored of that. And then the COVID era brought about a lot of new stuff while still also leaning into the nostalgia factor. There was a lot of cool stuff to it. And so basically what I'm saying is that I think for another sort of boom period of Minecraft popularity, you kind of just need to wait for a load of updates to come about, and then a bunch of people who maybe were kids in the COVID era essentially become content creators for the game in this new era in, say, 2030 or something along those lines. Do I think it will happen? Maybe not. And do I think it really matters if it happens? Again, not really, because to me, I don't care at this point whether or not the game's popular. I'm happy with where Minecraft's at, to the point where, like I say, I will still play the game no matter what, so it doesn't really matter to me whether or not it's popular or if it isn't. But I think there's a lot of advantages to the game being popular. I think the COVID era and the popularity it brought about has certainly meant that now there's a lot of cool updates still coming to the game even after that, and a lot of people aren't aware of them, because, like I say, the game sort of died down in popularity. But then again, that might help with popularity in the future, because again, they might go and find these new updates that they weren't aware of are suddenly in the game. So that's all well and good, and I still think there is a lot of stuff that they can add. Like I've been saying for ages, I think a really big major end update could really help with that, and just adding more and more things, because the thing is with the OG era is that Minecraft was very simple, and so you kind of had to create the content yourself with your friends. The COVID era kind of was like Minecraft proving that it can stand on its own 2 feet. You can enjoy playing single-player Minecraft. And so essentially, I think a third era kind of has to go into the single-player element even more and show that there's still a lot of stuff to do, but also, again, show off a lot of the multiplayer stuff. Because one of the main indicators that Minecraft just isn't that popular anymore, and again, I don't think this particularly matters, but I'm just stating a fact here, is that multiplayer servers on Java just aren't as popular as they ever have been. Now, I don't have any figures for this because, I'll be for real, I didn't play during the peak times of Hypixel or anything like that. But I know now that Hypixel, I'm fairly sure, averages to about 30 to 50,000 concurrent players. When at its peak, there was times when it had 200,000, I want to say. Now again, I don't have exact figures. I don't know exactly what it was. It could be way more than that. It could be less than that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly sure it's about 200,000 players. And that is insane to have 200,000 players on a third-party server. And now, as well, the server that I regularly play on is MCC Island, which is a modern PvP server, and it gets, about maybe 500 to 1,000 players on any one day, which is good for a server of this era, but if you look back at something like Hypixel, when the peak was, again, I'm saying 200,000, or even modern Hypixel with about 33,000 maybe, it's still really not that great in comparison to Hypixel. But Hypixel is still, or as far as I'm aware anyway, is still the most popular server in Minecraft. And it gets about 33,000 when at one point it was, like I say, over 200,000, or at least to my knowledge. So the basic point to make there, though, is that the game obviously has potential. There is always going to be a big player base of players who can play on these multiplayer servers. And so essentially, for the game to be popular again, I mean, it needs to have a big single-player scene as well as a big multiplayer scene. And so essentially, what I'm saying is that for the game to be popular again, it essentially just needs to be patient, is my conclusion. That, to me, I think the reason that Minecraft ever became popular in the first place is because it was a good game. The reason it became popular again is because there was nostalgia, plus it was a good game that still updated even when they weren't there. And so really all Minecraft has to do is just do the same as what it always has been doing, and to me, I think that would eventually lead to the game, again, being popular again. But at the end of the day, like I say, I personally don't care about that. I think a lot of people who play Minecraft at the moment don't really care how popular the game is. And also there is a point to be made that Minecraft content on social media and everything, it's still just as popular, arguably, as what it ever has been. Certainly, if you've ever been on TikTok, which I haven't, but as far as I'm aware, a lot of TikTok videos do just have Minecraft parkour as a background bit of footage. And so you could make the argument that it is just as popular as it ever has been. But that's just completely random thoughts. But anyway, yeah. That's my thoughts on whether or not Minecraft will become popular again. Let me know in the comments any thoughts you have on this. And yeah, bye.